Hello aspirants, welcome back to the Current Connect series where we explore and discuss the most pressing issues relevant for the UPSC Combined Geoscientist exam. In this third installment, we will delve into topics related to environment and ecology for the month of May. We will explore topics such as impact of climate change, biodiversity conservation, sustainable development, and the importance of eco-friendly practices. Along with that, we will solve certain MCQs towards the end of this video to retain the concepts in a more effective way. So, let's get started. In the first topic of this episode, we are discussing a significant finding by the World Meteorological Organization or WMO that has raised concerns worldwide. But before we delve into the details, let's take a moment to understand the organization behind this important resource. The WMO was founded in 1950 and has its headquarters in Geneva. It is a specialized agency of the UN and is operates under the UN Economic and Social Council. WMO is entrusted with the responsibility of promoting international cooperation on atmospheric science, climatology, hydrology, and geophysics. Through its extensive network of member countries and experts, it collects data, analyzes them, and reports the changes in weather, climate, and water resources. WMO's research findings, such as the recent update on the global temperatures, serve a vital tool for governance, organizations, and individuals to plan and implement measures that mitigate the effect of climate change. The important reports published by the WMO are State of the Global Climate, Greenhouse Gas Bulletin, and so on. Now that we have an understanding of this organization, let's explore the findings of WMO's Global Annual to Decadal Climate Update. According to the WMO's Global Annual to Decadal Climate Update, global temperatures are now more likely to exceed the critical 1.5 degrees Celsius warming threshold within the next 5 years. So what is the importance of this critical temperature? Because this threshold is crucial in avoiding the catastrophic consequences of global warming as emphasized by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change or the IPCC. The WMO's Global Annual to Decadal Climate Update highlights a 66% chance of temporarily surpassing the 1.5 degrees Celsius mark by the year 2027, which is a significant increase from the previous estimates. Additionally, the WMO predicts a 98% chance that one of the next 5 years will be the hottest on record, which will surpass the previous record set in 2016. The increased likelihood of surpassing the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold is attributed to the combination of El Nino and human-induced climate change, which will lead to higher global temperatures. The impact of these rising temperatures extends globally, including here in India. It is projected to have significant consequences such as lower monsoonal rainfall and the potential for stronger cyclones like the cyclone MOONGA. India, with its heavy reliance on rain-fed agriculture and its long coastline, will face substantial challenges due to this climate change. To mitigate the effect of the climate change, it is crucial to improve forecasting capabilities for cyclones and also for the different weather anomalies, isn't it? It is equally important to invest in disaster-related infrastructure to build resilience against climate-related disasters. So, that's all you need to know about the report by WMO as far as your exam is concerned. Now, moving on to the next topic, we will delve into the different generations of biofuels and their significance in the Indian market. So before that, let's grasp the concept of biofuels. Biofuels involve the direct conversion of biomass into the liquid fuels, which can be blended with the existing automotive fuels. The two main types of transport fuels, that is the biofuels, are ethanol and biodiesel, which are derived from various biomass sources. And based on these biomass sources, the biofuels can be categorized into 4 types. Starting with the first generation or the 1G biofuels, they are typically made up from the edible feedstock like sugarcane, beets, and food grains. These crops are cultivated specifically for biofuel production, allowing us to utilize their carbohydrates and starches to produce bioethanol. Then the second generation or the 2G fuels are derived from the lignocellulosic biomass obtained from energy crops or waste biomass such as agricultural and forest residues. This sustainable approach utilizes non-edible feedstocks. The first one utilizes the edible feedstocks. The second one, that is the 2G fuel, it utilizes the non-edible feedstocks, reducing the impact on food production while producing biofuels, right? Then comes the third generation biofuel or the 3G biofuels, which take a unique approach by using algal biomass. Algae can be harnessed to produce a variety of biofuels, including the biodiesel, gasoline, butanol, propanol, and ethanol as well. With a significant higher yield than 2G biofuels, algae show a great potential for biofuel production. And lastly, we have the fourth generation of the 4G biofuels, which involve the utilization of genomically prepared microorganisms and genetically engineered feedstocks. These advanced biofuels can be grown in non-arable land and further expand the possibility of sustainable fuel production. Now, let's turn our focus to the Indian biofuel market and the targets set by the government. India has made remarkable progress in biofuel adoption, right? If you remember our discussion in the Indian economy segment of the Current Connect series, for bioethanol, the country has already achieved its target of 10% blending milestone in 2022 itself, and has even advanced the timeline to achieve an ambitious blending target of 20% by 2025. In case of biodiesel, India has a target of 5% blending in diesel by the year 2030, as outlined by the National Biofuels Policy of 2018. This policy aims to promote the use of vegetable oils converted into compounds called fatty acid methyl esters, which will be used in the production of biodiesel. Additionally, the SATAT initiative, SATAT initiative on compressed biogas CBG envisions the production of 15 million metric tons of CBG and 50 million metric tons of manure from 5,000 plants. This sustainable alternative towards affordable transportation showcases India's commitment to greener future. With these targets and initiatives, India is making significant strides towards reducing its dependency on fossil fuels and promoting a cleaner and more sustainable energy sector, isn't it? And that wraps up our discussion on different generations of biofuels and their importance in the Indian market. In this topic on climate finance, we delve into the concept of debt for climate swaps and their potential benefits for low and middle income countries. So let's explore the details. Debt for climate swaps have gained popularity in the past decade as debt restructuring mechanism between the creditors and the debtors. This approach involves the creditor providing debt relief, or you can say forgiving a portion of debtors' foreign debt in exchange for a commitment to invest in specific environmental mitigation and adaptation projects. So, who are the beneficiaries of this mechanism? The primary beneficiaries of debt for climate swaps are low and middle income countries, particularly the small island developing states or SIDS. Why? Because these countries face the dual challenges of high debt burdens and vulnerability to the impacts of climate change. Let's take the example of Caribbean small island developing states, which have been severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and faced a significant debt crisis. By participating in debt for climate swaps, these countries can receive debt relief while committing to invest in projects that enhance their climate resilience, right? So this aligns the commitments made under the Paris Agreement and initiatives like Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, which aims to provide financial assistance to the developing countries for building clean and climate resilient futures. There are two approaches which are often compared with debt for climate swaps. One is swap and another is condition grants. Swap involves offering a debt relief above what is needed to finance climate investments, resulting in a higher fiscal transfer and creation of a larger fiscal space for the governments. On the other hand, the condition grants cover the cost of an investment but often require economic dislocation and diversion of resources from planned developmental programs, right? So we can say the debt for climate swaps are a better alternatives to the condition grants. Additionally, there are several advantages to debt for climate swaps. Firstly, they serve the dual objectives of promoting climate action and providing debt relief. This allows the government, from the small island developing states, to allocate fiscal resources towards strengthening resilience without compromising on their developmental priorities. Additionally, the debt for climate swaps provide an attractive and transparent instrument for developed countries to fulfill their commitments in supporting the developing countries to make their climate transitions. By offering debt relief in exchange for climate investments, these swaps create the much needed fiscal space and facilitate the implementation of crucial projects as well. A successful example of debt for climate swaps can be seen in the case of Seychelles, a small African country which in 2017 announced the conclusion of negotiation for a debt for adaptation swap with the involvement of the Nature Conservancy Company, or the TNC, which is a US-based environmental organization. The TNC purchased $22 million of Seychelles debt in exchange for country's commitment to establish 13 new the protected areas, right? So if we see in the current context, countries like Sri Lanka, which are grappling with the dual burden of impacts of climate change and sovereign debt crisis, can explore the potential of debt for climate swaps to address these intertwined challenges, isn't it? So, in summary, debt for climate swaps offer a promising avenue for countries to alleviate their debt burdens while advancing climate action, right? So, that's all for this topic. In the next topic, we will explore the phenomenon known as Arctic amplification, which has been observed in the Arctic region. According to a recent study by the WMO, that is the World Meteorological Organization, the Arctic is warming at a disproportionately high rate compared to the rest of the world. In fact, the Arctic region has warmed at least twice as much as the global average. And this temperature difference between the poles and the tropics is referred to as Arctic or polar amplification. But why is the Arctic warming faster than the rest of the world? There are few factors contributing to this phenomenon. Firstly, the ice cover in the Arctic is melting at an alarming rate. As the ice melts, more land and water are exposed to the sun, which will lead to increased absorption of sunlight. This absorption of sun energy accelerates the warming process in that region. Secondly, heat is transferred from the tropics to the poles through prevailing system of air circulation, if you know. This circulation helps to distribute the heat across the globe. However, due to various atmospheric and oceanic patterns and their changes due to climate change, the Arctic is experiencing a more pronounced amplification of warming compared to the other regions. Along with that, it's important to note that the polar amplification is much stronger in the Arctic than in Antarctica. This difference arises due to the contrasting characteristics of these polar regions. The Arctic, which is the northernmost region of the Earth, is an ocean covered by sea ice, while Antarctica, that is the southernmost continent, is an elevated continent covered in more permanent ice and snow. So these varying physical attributes play a significant role in the amplification of warming. Understanding Arctic amplification is crucial as it has far-reaching implications. The accelerated warming in the Arctic has consequences for the entire planet, including rising sea levels, changing in weather patterns, and impacts on ecosystem and biodiversity. As scientists continue to study and monitor the Arctic amplification phenomenon, it becomes evident that urgent action is needed to mitigate climate change and its effects, isn't it? By reducing greenhouse gas emissions and adopting sustainable practices, we can work towards a more balanced and resilient planet. So, that's all about the Arctic amplification phenomenon, and that's all that you need to know as far as your exam is concerned. Moving on to the next topic, we will discuss the finding of a United Nations Environment Programme UNEP report on plastic pollution and the need for a circular economy to combat this problem. Okay, so the UNEP report titled Turning Off the Tap, How the World Can End Plastic Pollution and Create a Circular Economy emphasizes the importance of transitioning to a circular plastic-free economy while safeguarding the livelihoods of individuals, right? So first of all, what is a circular economy? A circular economy is an economic system where the means of production are organized around reusing and recycling inputs, promoting sustainability and environmental friendliness. According to the report, global plastic pollution can be reduced by a staggering 80% by the year 2040 if we shift towards a circular economy, right? And currently the world produces a whopping 430 million metric tons of plastic annually, with over 2/3 of it being short-lived products. The report also warns that if we continue with a business-as-usual approach that we do now, plastic could emit 19% of the global greenhouse gas emissions that is allowed under a 1.5 degrees Celsius scenario by 2040. So, and furthermore, the plastic production is projected to triple by 2060, right? So now we all are aware of the causes and consequences of the plastic pollution. The plastic pollution occurs when the plastic accumulates in an area, causing a harm to the natural environment and posing threat to plants, wildlife, as well as human populations. However, transitioning to the circular economy offers numerous benefits, such as it will create more jobs, more opportunities for income and innovation, while reducing the damage to human health and the environment, right? It also helps to minimize the liabilities, risks, and litigations associated with the plastic pollution. It is also important for individuals, businesses, and governments to work together in implementing this the circular economy in the plastic sector, and strategizing as well as prioritizing and recycling, reducing plastic waste, and promoting sustainable alternatives. Right. So that sums up our discussion on the UNEP report on plastic pollution and its solution in the form of circular economy. Next up, we will discuss some of the topics related to biodiversity. In the first topic, we will explore the Central Asian flyway and the efforts being made to conserve migratory birds and their habitats. Let's dive in. Recently, a meeting of range countries was held to strengthen the conservation efforts for migratory birds and their habitats in the Central Asian flyway. This meeting was organized by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in collaboration with United Nations Environment Programme. The Central Asian Flyway is one of the 9 flyways identified under the Convention on Migratory Species, also known as the Bonn Convention. Remember, this is an important area from where questions are asked. Now, what are flyways? Flyways are areas used by groups of birds during their annual cycle, which includes breeding areas, stopover areas, and wintering areas. The Central Asian Flyway spans over 30 countries and encompasses migration routes for different water birds. It connects their northernmost breeding ground, which is in Russia, that is Siberia, to their southernmost non-breeding or the wintering ground in West and South Asia, including Maldives and Indian Ocean Territory. And now, what's the role of India in all this? India plays a crucial role in Central Asian Flyway as it provides critical stopover site for over 90% of the bird species known to use this migratory route, right? And recognizing the importance of the migratory birds, India has developed a national action plan for conservation of these migratory birds and their habitat from 2018 to 2023. Migratory birds play a vital role in our ecosystem, if you know. They act as pest control agents, they help to disperse the seeds, they increase the species richness of the area and support the communities through ecotourism, isn't it? They also serve as an important indicator of the state of the environment of a particular area. So by conserving the Central Asian Flyway and its diverse bird species, we contribute to the overall biodiversity and ecological balance of our planet, isn't it? So that's all you need to know about the Central Asian Flyway. Now, moving on to the next topic, we will discuss the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 and the recent amendments made to strengthen the wildlife protection in India. The Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has issued a notification to amend the WPA 1972. The new amendment requires all persons engaged in breeding in captivity or artificially propagating any scheduled specimen listed in Appendix 1 of Schedule 4 to apply for a license. So, what is Appendix 1 of Schedule 4? Appendix 1 of Schedule 4 includes endangered exotic animals such as red panda, various species of dogs, wolves, cats, chimpanzees, gibbons, as well as certain plant species. The amendments aim to regulate the captive breeding of these exotic species which were previously not regulated, right? Additionally, the recent amendments align the Wildlife Protection Act with the provisions of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, that is the CITES. So, what is CITES? CITES is an international agreement between the governments to ensure that international trade in specimen of wild animals and plants does not threaten the survival of that particular specimen, right? The recent amendments also grant more power to the central government. It can designate a management authority to issue export or import permits for the trade in wildlife specimens. The government can regulate or prohibit the import, trade, possession or proliferation of the invasive alien species which are non-native species that may adversely impact the wildlife and its habitat. And also the recent amendments streamline the classification of species by reducing the number of schedules from 6 to 4. Previously, it used to be 6 schedules, now it's 4. So Schedule 1 provides the highest level of protection for animal species. Then comes the Schedule 2, which offers a lesser degree of protection. Schedule 3 is protected plant species, and Schedule 4 lists the specimens that are under CITES. So these amendments to the Wildlife Protection Act aims to strengthen the wildlife conservation efforts, regulate the captive breeding of the exotic species, and align with the international agreements for the protection of endangered wildlife. Remember, this act is of particular interest of UPSC. So remember the important point we discussed and refer to various bodies and statutory authorities formed under this act, such as the National Tiger Conservation Authority or the NTCA, Central Zoo Authority, the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, etc. So that's all you need to know about the WPA. Next up, we will discuss the Cheetah project and the formation of the Cheetah Project Steering Committee or the CPSC. So the NTCA has formed the Cheetah Project Steering Committee or the CPSC to oversee the implementation of Project Cheetah. So this groundbreaking Project Cheetah aims to translocate cheetahs from Africa to India, which makes it the world's first intercontinental large wild carnivore translocation project, right? And now the Project Cheetah is expected to restore open forest and grassland ecosystem, conserve the biodiversity, and contribute to the conservation of the cheetah, which is considered a keystone species. So what exactly is a keystone species? A keystone species is a species that has disproportionately high impact on its ecosystem compared to its abundance. It plays a crucial role in maintaining the balance and functioning of the entire ecosystem. In this case, the cheetahs, their presence in an ecosystem helps to regulate prey population, which in turn affects the vegetation and other animal species in the area. And by controlling the population of herbivores, cheetahs indirectly impact the entire food web and maintain the ecological balance. Therefore, protecting and conserving cheetahs not only benefit the survival of this magnificent species, but also ensures the health and stability of their entire habitat, right? And the recent death of the cubs born to the translocated Namibian cheetah at the Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh highlights the need for dedicated committee to oversee the project. There are several challenges in ensuring the sustainability of this project, that is the Project Cheetah. As if you know, the cheetahs have a tendency to range over wide distances, right? But the Kuno National Park has limited available space. So this poses a challenge in terms of animal behavior, their dispersal, movement, and also territorial aggression. Additionally, the lack of small prey ways from their native ecosystem at the place of translocation and difficulties in post-release monitoring due to topography, remoteness, and availability of skilled personnel are significant hurdles. The Project Cheetah and the Cheetah Steering Committee, comprising national and international experts, will play a crucial role in addressing these challenges and ensure the success of the Project Cheetah. And this committee, the CPSC, will be in force for a period of 2 years. So that's all on the Project Cheetah and the information of the Cheetah Project Steering Committee, right? So next up, the topic is on ONGC regarding their recent discoveries in the Arabian Sea. Oil and Natural Gas Corporation or the ONGC has made a significant discovery of crude oil and natural gas in 2 blocks called AMRIT and MOONGA blocks. These blocks are part of the Open Acreage Licensing Policy or the OALP in Mumbai offshore on the Arabian Sea. So what exactly is OALP? The OALP is a part of the Hydrocarbon Exploration and Licensing Policy or the HELP introduced by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. It allows the companies to select exploration blocks on their own without waiting for a formal bid round from the government under the HELP scheme. Under the OALP, companies can apply to the government for exploration of new blocks that are not already covered by the exploration to discover the hydrocarbons such as oil, gas, coal-bed methane, and gas hydrates, or so on. The Hydrocarbon Exploration and Licensing Policy or the HELP was introduced in 2016 to improve the exploration and production in India, and it replaced the previous scheme NELP, the National New Exploration Licensing Policy. These discoveries are important as the government's objective is to increase India's exploration acreage to 0.5 million square kilometer by 2025. Right? So, and according to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, India ranks as the world's third largest consumer of energy, third largest consumer of crude oil, fourth largest refiner, sixth largest importer of petroleum products, and seventh largest exporter of petroleum products. And these discoveries by ONGC in AMRIT and MOONGA blocks are significant steps towards meeting India's growing energy demands and reducing its dependence on imports. So that sums up the topic. You need to remember the HELP and OLAP scheme regarding this discussion. Now, the next issue is on the CHAPORI Wildlife Sanctuary in Assam and the measures being taken to protect its ecological significance. The CHAPORI Wildlife Sanctuary is located in Assam on the south bank of the Brahmaputra River in the Sonipat district as a Sonitpur district, and as a sanctuary, it plays a crucial role in maintaining the biodiversity of the region. This sanctuary is not only a protected area but also an important buffer zone for the renowned Kaziranga Tiger Reserve. Right, so that is why this is very significant. So one of the notable species found in this this particular wildlife sanctuary is the Bengal florican, which is a critically endangered species. This sanctuary provides an ideal habitat for these magnificent birds and contribute to their conservation. In recognition of its ecological significance, it was declared a wildlife sanctuary in 1995, and many initiatives are taken by the Assam government to protect this unique ecosystem. So it is all you need to remember is that it is a unique habitat for the Bengal florican and acts as a buffer zone for the Kaziranga Tiger Reserve. Right. So that's all you need to know about the CHAPORI Wildlife Sanctuary and where it is located. It is located in Assam. Next up, we will be discussing the concept of eco-sensitive zones and the recent developments surrounding the POBITORA Wildlife Sanctuary in Assam. The POBITORA Wildlife Sanctuary, located in the floodplains of the Brahmaputra River, is renowned for its high population density of one-horned rhinos, making it a significant conservation area. Right? One-horned rhinos are also critically endangered species. So recently, a plea was filed in the Supreme Court seeking the declaration of the area surrounding the POBITORA Wildlife Sanctuary as an eco-sensitive zone. But what exactly is an eco-sensitive zone? Eco-sensitive zones or ESZs are designated areas surrounding national parks and wildlife sanctuaries that are deemed to ecologically fragile and important for the conservation of the wildlife and their habitats. Eco-sensitive zones or ESZs are designated areas surrounding national parks and wildlife sanctuaries that are deemed ecologically fragile and important for the conservation of wildlife and their habitats. However, it's also important to note that the application of the 10-kilometer rule can always vary, and in certain cases, areas beyond 10 kilometers can also be notified as ESZs if they contain significant ecological corridors. Certain prohibited activities in ESZs include commercial mining, polluting industries, major hydroelectric projects, and commercial use of wood. On the other hand, regulated activities include tree felling, establishment of hotel and resorts, commercial use of natural water, erection of electrical cables, etc. There are certain permitted activities in ESZs, including the ongoing agricultural and horticultural practices, rainwater harvesting, organic farming, use of renewable energy sources, and adoption of green technology for all activities. The Supreme Court has recently issued the notices to Ministry of Environment and Forest and the Assam government in response to the plea seeking the declaration of the area around the POBITORA Wildlife Sanctuary as an eco-sensitive zone. This development aims to protect the sanctuary as a sanctuary and its unique ecosystem from the potential threats. So, this is all about the POBITORA Wildlife Sanctuary and the eco-sensitive zones, right? Now, this brings us to the last topic, the Atal Bhujal Yojana, a central sector scheme aimed at sustainable groundwater management with community participation. The scheme was launched in 2020 by Ministry of Jal Shakti. Its objective is to bring about the behavioral changes in communities and promote demand-side interventions for water conservation and smart water management. Under this scheme, water user associations were formed and Activities such as water budgeting and preparation and implementation of Gram Panchayat-wise water security plans are undertaken. The major aim is to empower the local communities to actively manage their groundwater resources, right? And this scheme focuses on reducing water demand in irrigation and implementing the efficient water techniques such as drip and sprinkler irrigation, irrigation through pipelines, mulching, and crop diversification. There are certain participating states in the Atal Bhujal Yojana, which include Gujarat, Haryana, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh. These states were selected based on the criteria such as groundwater exploitation, degradation, legal and regulatory instruments, institutional readiness, and experience in groundwater management initiatives. The scheme, as I said, is a central sector scheme, is funded by the Government of India and the World Bank jointly on a 50-50 basis, which also emphasizes the importance of collaboration and support from the international institutions as well. In summary, the Atal Bhujal Yojana plays a crucial role in addressing the challenges of groundwater exploitation and degradation in overexploited and water-stressed areas. So that covers the topic related to the environment and ecology for today's session. Now let's solve some of the MCQs to test our understanding. The first question is on biofuel that we have just discussed, which was asked in UPSC CSE 2020 prelims. According to India's national biopolicy on biofuels, which one of the following can be used as raw material for the production of biofuels? Okay, so the National Biofuel Policy 2018 expands the scope of raw material for ethanol production by allowing the use of sugarcane juice, sugar-containing materials like sugar beet, sweet sorghum, starch-containing materials like corn, cassava, damaged food grains like wheat, broken rice, and also the rotten potatoes that are unfit for human consumption to produce ethanol from them. Hence, the correct answer is 1, 2, 5, and 6 only. Next question asks, under the hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy, the revenue to the Government of India accrues through which one of the following? Okay, so HELP provides for a uniform licensing system that will cover all hydrocarbons such as oil, gas, and coal bed within, as I discussed. And this under the previous scheme, that was the NELP, separate licenses were issued for exploring the different types of hydrocarbon, and this led to the additional cost and separate licenses requirement. So HELP provides for a revenue sharing model. The government will receive a share of the gross revenue from the sale of the oil, gas, etc., and will not be concerned with the cost incurred, right? So in our discussion, we understand that ONGC explored the blocks under the OALP mechanism under the HELP scheme, where exploration can be done without waiting for the bidding of the blocks. So for this question, 2 will be the right answer. That is the biddable revenue sharing contract, right? Next question is on circular economy. Consider the following statements. The circular economy is a solution framework that tackles global challenges like climate change and pollution. Okay. And the circular economy focuses on reusing and recycling of natural resources, whereas natural resources in a linear economy turn into waste, right? So both the statements, statement 1 and 2 are correct. Next question asks, Bonn Convention is associated with biological diversity, international trade in endangered species of wild fauna and flora, migratory species, and transboundary movement of hazardous waste. Okay. So now, as we discussed in the context of Central Asian FLYWAY, the Convention on Migratory Species is also known as the Bonn Convention. So option C will be the right answer, right? And that brings us to the end of our today's episode. We explored various important topics from climate change and plastic pollution to wildlife protection and conservation efforts. Thank you for joining us in this discussion through the world of environment and ecology. Stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore important topics relevant for the Combined Geoscientist exam. Until then, let's work towards a sustainable and thriving world. Goodbye.